Welcome back to West Texas View.
Dr. Cola has been talking to us about some issues that she sees in her pediatrician's office, and also some things that she hopes that parents think about. And so I wanted us to change topics now and talk about attitudes of parents toward their children's nurturing, and some of the things that they can do to make their children more successful and happier at school and in the future. And I remember, Dr. Cola, that when I was growing up, we didn't have television, right. And so things were so different, and things were much more relaxed at home in the evenings. We didn't have the phone ringing. In fact, you were not allowed to use the phone after 9 o'clock. And so there was just a completely different atmosphere. So what I want you to do is talk about how this change in atmosphere has changed parents' attitudes toward children. For example, parents don't read to children anymore.
That is very true, Johnny. Parents don't read to children anymore. They don't have time. And if I talk to most of my parents, they say, oh, we give them the iPhones or the iPads, and they're so happy playing with it. It makes our work easy. They get to eat what they want or what we want, and then they don't bother us, they don't disturb us in our adult activities. So that's something that we have to talk about. This is a serious problem. iPhones and iPads are excellent in technology, but there is a limit for everything, and kids, I think especially, should not be introduced to some things like that. I don't think a teenager should be walking in with a cell phone in a pediatrician's office, doesn't know what to do and what's happening with himself, just has no idea what's going on. And then
almost can't function
exactly.
without one.
And every now and then I see moms coming in, and I'm asking a question like, excuse me, doc, she gives the iPhone or the iPad to the kid, go play with it, and then she keeps talking to me. So she is keeping the kid engaged with iPhones and iPads, and I don't think that's a normal thing, and that should be encouraged anymore. Because the other day in my clinic, I've seen a kid, I think he was about 18 months or less than 2 years. He was getting very frustrated when I gave him a book, because he only knew how to turn the pages like an iPad, slide it, and he doesn't know how to open a book. That really made me freak out.
Yes, that
was
would
like,
be.
Yeah, in this world, if we just continue doing iPads and iPhones, books are soon going to be obsolete. So we don't read to our kids anymore, which is a very bad thing.
And they don't know the joy of conversation and reasoning and thinking through things.
Right. When you read to your child, as I say, read aloud. Even it's a toddler, or even younger than that, an infant. There's no set age that you can start reading. You can even start with a baby. It's never too early to read. You can even start with a baby. When you start reading, a child can recognize the mom's voice and relate with the mom. He sees the world through the mom's eyes. So when mom reads out to him, he looks at things. He looks at her, he looks at the things. He develops a connection between both of them. That way you have a bond between your child. It's a good family bonding. And I guess we all have to encourage this, read aloud to the children. And I guess there's a good national program called Reach Out and Read to Kids, which is a part of Texas Tech. We are really encouraging to give books away to the parents. So where we talk to the parents and we say, just give the book. Most of the moms say like, oh, he doesn't like the book, he likes the iPad, he loves the iPad. Okay, who gave him the iPad? How was he introduced to the iPad? You gave it to him. So instead of the iPad, make it a habit, giving a book every time. And it's very steady when you give a book. For example, board books are wonderful for babies and infants. They don't have to have a good concentration. They can just look at it for a flick of a second or a fraction of a second. That's still okay. But that's how it starts. An ocean starts with a drop, so the interest starts with just a glimpse. So once you start looking at it, you develop interest. The more parent gives it, the more he encourages it, the more kids look at it, and they read. And the research has shown that if you read out to your child at least 4 days out of the 7, reading problems or reading disabilities after they go to school are decreased significantly. So this is such a good thing that you encourage them. And when you start reading, I remember when my mom was reading stories to me,
too.
it was such a beautiful world. Your imagination, your creativity doubles, and then you want to be a good human being rather than just being so hyper and nervous of killing somebody or moving stuff on the iPads or iPhones or slashing. I guess books are great. They're wonderful, and they're there for a reason. And I guess everybody should read books to their children.
I agree with that 100%.
Yes.
But the interesting thing about that is what you said at the very beginning. People are using iPhones and iPads as babysitters, just like my age parents of my children use television as a babysitter. And that's where really a lot of this overweight problems began. Another thing I want us to talk about is that we don't just sit and talk with our children, and we don't question them so that their mind can explore these questions.
Yes, that's very true. We kind of have very high expectations from our kids because of the changing world and the changing demand. We do expect a lot from our kids to give back. Say, for instance, when you drive your kid back from the school or from the daycare, how many times have you spoken to your kid how the day went by?
Yes.
Nobody does. It's like, just turn on the music or give him the iPhone or the iPad or do something. Don't disturb me, I'm driving. So this is a common statement from most of our parents that we see. We have to talk to them. And a child feels embraced, especially when he's away from the mom and dad for such a long time, and when they come and ask how it was, he feels so elated, so happy. And just a question, it doesn't have to be
how was your day?
Right, that question is enough to enlighten him. Is like, and you can see your toddler or your baby will just go non-stop of this happened, that happened, and that's how you see what's going on in his life, because they spend pretty much half a day, and that's a long time. So I guess you have to talk to your kids. And when you talk to kids, don't demand answers. If they want to be silent for a while, please give them that 30 minutes, 40 minutes. The silence has to break some way. And when they break, they will come up with tons of questions for you. And kids only learn by asking questions and imitating parents. So again, that gets back to me saying that parents are the best example. You are the hero. You are the role model for your children. So try to be in a good way, so you teach your kids to be in a better way. So you can't be in a wrong way and expect them to do everything correct. So that's where everything starts.
But and one of the things that we see so much in our society today that we didn't see when I was growing up was grandparents raising children, and sometimes they're so overwhelmed. So we've got several generations of overwhelmed kids, and so we've got to do some parent training before we can do some child health issues.
Right. I guess these days we don't go back to our grandmoms and granddads and ask them to read a story anymore. We just sit there and then watch them, and you probably have time for lunch, and then it's a family issue. It's a family issue.
We have enjoyed this program so much with Dr. Cola, and she's going to be back next Sunday because we've barely scratched the surface of where we want to go. So we'll see you next Sunday with Dr. Cola.
Thanks for joining us for News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery. This has been a public affairs presentation of KWAB-TV and KWES-TV.